So, um, things are a bit weird, huh? I don't know where all you guys are in the world, but I truly hope you are staying healthy and inside. Yeah, it's been kind of weird. We are all officially here on lockdown as of midnight last night. And I think the weirdest thing about that for me is that it doesn't actually change my schedule all that much. It's kind of weird to find out that what you call your daily life, everybody else calls quarantine. I know that I am incredibly lucky to have a job that I can continue to work remotely during this time. Not everybody is as lucky. I really hope that you are all doing okay and that you are reaching out for help if you need it and support, and that you are staying in touch with the people that you love and offering them support if you are able to. So, this week gonna go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Ha ha ha, see what I did there? And yeah, so this is just another Code with Me video, and let's go ahead and jump right in. So, this week I am working on improving the error handling in our application. Basically, there's a plane going by outside, but it'll be gone soon. Basically, we use GraphQL and Apollo, which are excellent, really awesome tools for building web applications. But the way GraphQL handles errors is a little bit different than the way a typical, what's called a REST application would handle errors. And the way we've been doing it is a little bit like brute force, not terribly sophisticated. So I'm going to go through and create some sort of like custom error handling logic in the application. I started on this yesterday. My coworker has already implemented some things on the back end. He's basically going to be sending me, instead of raising errors, what we're going to be doing is, instead of raising an error for like everything that goes wrong on the back end. So for example, if a user tries to access the site and they're not logged in, that would typically raise an error, a 401 error, unauthorized. But we don't really want to handle that as an error, because what would happen typically in that case is that we would attempt to automatically log the user back in and refresh their access token. So to throw an error on that is really a little bit, it's like, it doesn't feel like quite the right thing to do. So we're going to implement some custom error handling for things like that, where yes, something went wrong, but it's transient, so it's fixable, and we're going to attempt to fix it. And really making a distinction between the things that are errors like that and the things that are actual errors, like the server is down, or like some resource is gone or whatever. Those we're going to be handling a little bit differently. So that's what I'm starting to work on today. I'm actually really glad that I got to record a video today, because the irony, of course, is that we're all on lockdown and this is like the perfect time for me to be recording videos. And my computer decided that it can't run GarageBand anymore. So typically I have GarageBand running on my computer, and I also have all of the other things that I need for development running, and it's just gotten to the point that like my computer can't handle it all anymore. I don't know if it's legitimately like there just isn't enough error, because it's got like 16 gigs of RAM. It should be, it's like a 2016 MacBook. So I don't know if it should be able to handle it and something else is going on, but right now anytime I try to run GarageBand to record and also do this, it just crashes with some error that the audio processor can't handle all the whatever. Can't handle all the sweet sounds of my voice, I guess. So today I am running GarageBand on a separate computer that I borrowed, and I'm running everything else on my regular laptop. So hopefully this works. Hopefully nothing crashes and we can keep going along here. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure I've got the latest changes pulled down, because I did do some things last night. As I said, I've been working like, oh my god, just crazy hours. You guys, that's another reason I haven't done as many videos, because I just haven't had time. Like, work is so crazy busy right now. It's kind of weirdly like this like coronavirus and quarantine sort of happened at like a weirdly appropriate time for us. That sounds really terrible to say, but like we're all just like holed up. Our team is now working 100% remotely, and we're all just like heads down coding, you know, like all day every day. So I mean, it's kind of works, I guess. Let's see, where am I? I want to go there. Custom error response link. Great. Okay. Perfect. So let's see what's going on here. So basically yesterday I added like sort of just a test, like a proof of concept for this. What I have to do is I have to create my own custom Apollo link. And Apollo is a front-end library for building applications that interact with the GraphQL backend. GraphQL is oh boy, we're really going to get into all this. It was developed by Facebook. It's hard for me to code and explain this at the same time. So, GraphQL was developed by Facebook. It is a querying framework that sits on top of let's actually look up the official definition so I know I'm actually saying this. There's a few things that it is. I want to make sure I'm actually getting this right. So this is from the GraphQL website. Is a query language for APIs and a runtime for fulfilling those queries with your existing data. GraphQL provides a complete and understandable description of the data in your API, gives clients the power to ask for exactly what they need and nothing more, makes it easier to evolve APIs over time, and enables powerful developer tools. So a REST API, which stands for Representational State Transfer. I have to make sure I'm actually getting that right as well. Representational State Transfer, yeah. It's basically you make what are called get, posts, update, delete requests to an endpoint. And typically there'll be like one endpoint for every type of request you want to make. So if you want information about a user, you have to hit the /users endpoint with a query, and it will return to you usually a lot. Like, it's difficult to specify exactly what information you want about the user. And then if you want a little bit like more specific information, you have to build a completely separate endpoint with separate handlers for their incoming requests. So if I wanted just like basic user information, I might hit a /users endpoint. If I wanted the data for like a user's posts, for example, in like a social networking platform, I might hit /users/posts, and that's a completely separate endpoint. So as you can imagine, like, that gets out of hand pretty quickly. You end up with a lot of different endpoints, and if all I want for a page is like the user's name and photograph, for example, when I hit the /users endpoint, I might end up getting back a lot more information that I don't actually need, like, you know, all the other information about that user, which if you're on a mobile phone particularly can just slow things down because you're ending up getting a lot of extra data that you don't really need. So what GraphQL does is it sort of sits on top of that whole, actually we don't even have any regular REST endpoints. All we have is one endpoint that's /GraphQL. And then you send a request to that one endpoint specifying exactly what data you want. So I could say, give me this user's photograph only, and it will send back just that. Or give me this user's name only, and it will send back that. Or give me this user's name and all of their posts, and it'll send back that. So it's pretty cool, makes it much easier to query for exactly what you need. And it makes it much easier to sort of like then just slot that data right into your UI exactly where it needs to be. So that's GraphQL. That sits on the back end and it handles the requests, and it also it designates your schema, or like what your data is going to look like, what those requests are going to look like, and then it also handles the resolution of finding all of that data. On the front end, Apollo gives you a way to interact with that GraphQL endpoint in an easy way. You don't have to use Apollo. You don't have to use GraphQL. You don't have to use anything. This is what's so frustrating about working on the web, is that there's literally like a million different solutions for everything. But so you can use Apollo to interface with that GraphQL endpoint and build those queries really easily, and then manage the data when it comes back. And the really cool thing about Apollo is that it will cache the results for you. So, for example, when you first load the site, it might take a minute to load all of the posts and all of the information. But then once that's there, Apollo will automatically cache all of that for you. So then if the user like navigates away, like let's take Instagram as an example. Let's say when you first load Instagram, it takes a minute to load your entire feed. Then let's say you navigate away from that feed, like to your profile, just to check out your followers or whatever. The next time you go back to your feed, it's going to load like that. And that's because Apollo, and I actually don't know if Instagram uses Apollo. They might. They probably have something else. But that would be, if you were using Apollo, it would have cached your feed the first time you went there. So then when the next time you go back, it'll load much more quickly. So that's just a brief overview of what we're using. Apollo includes these things called links, which are the ways that you manage your incoming and outgoing requests. So, for example, there is an HTTP link to send the request to the GraphQL endpoint. There is, what are we using in here? We're using an error link to handle incoming errors, and that's actually what I'm going to be changing today. There's also, what are we also using in here? Oh yeah, an upload link to handle file uploads. There's many other retry link to retry requests that might fail. I just implemented here a logging link. So this is what I did yesterday, just to kind of test out, because I've never built a custom link before. I've only imported links that other people have built. So now I'm trying to build a custom link. So yesterday what I did was I created a logging link that basically just logs all of the outgoing requests and how long it took to complete them, just to do a little test and make sure that I kind of understand how this is working. So that went pretty well. And now today I'm trying to build a link that will catch all of the incoming responses and then look through those responses for custom errors. So my coworker on the back end is no longer sending me just a GraphQL error, which Apollo would catch automatically. He's now sending me a custom response field that will include whether there's an error in the response. So now I have to look at the response, parse it, see if there's an error. If there is, raise it to whatever component made the request. So it's a little bit, I guess we'll see how it works. I'm not completely sold on the idea, to be completely honest, because I kind of think that like implementing brand new custom logic like this when there is already things in place to sort of handle this is a bit weird, but he seems to think it's going to work, so I'm just going to go along with it. And I can see how it will work. What I really want to do first is find the PR that he made that has the backend changes. Where did he do that? I can't remember what it looked like. I could just search through the code. Apollo client. No, this is not right. We want text to password reset. No, that's not it either. That's a bunk, that's a bunk. Emails for staff. No, that's not it. Those are the fields for... Maybe it was longer ago than I thought. Categorization for the question bank. Oh, here it is. Okay, great. Okay, so basically here he's given us a class result types of either success, warning, recoverable error, or full error. And then result descriptions, which are okay, invalid email, invalid password, user not found, no recovery match, and then we'll add to those descriptions. Then the result description be a message, the result type, which is going to be either success, warning, recoverable, or full, and then the result code, which is going to be, I guess, the description. And then here, get successful result description. We'll return a result description with a message of nothing, a result type of the result types dot success, and then the result code of the result descriptions dot okay. Okay, so basically what I would do then on the front end is I would look through the response object for I guess a result description field. Has he implemented this anywhere, or has he just built the model? Oh, hello. How's it going? Are you bored? I don't know if you guys can see my dog is like right over there. She's starting to wake up, ready to take on the day, ready to start bothering me. Okay, so I just had a chat actually with my coworker, who it turns out is feeling a bit better but not completely better yet, so I think he's going to take today to just rest as well and hopefully be back on tomorrow. But anyway, so he cleared up for me a couple of questions that I was having here. Basically what I need to do is, or what I'm going to do is, I'm going to actually create 2 of these Apollo links. One of them is going to intercept the outgoing query, and it's going to append this special result field that we're looking for to every outgoing query, and then a second link is going to check the incoming response and pass that result field that's returned. The real bummer is that I'm basically, once I've built this link, gonna have to go through and do the potentially quite boring job of looking at all of our current errors and figuring out rebuilding them in this new format. So I might not film all of that. I'm just gonna build the 2 links here probably, and then go through and start looking at all of the error objects, but I might not film that because it's probably not going to be super interesting. But anyway, so export const outgoing, what should I call this thing? This is like always the question with programming. My dog has just decided that she's going to come up for a visit. Hi. Oh no, actually she doesn't want to talk to me, she just wants to go outside. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to call this append result description link. It is a new Apollo link which takes the argument of a callback, which has 2 arguments itself, operation and forward. Operation is the actually, can I do this? Operation is the outgoing operation. And forward is the way that you would then continue the query along down the chain to then eventually get sent and returned. I'm actually realizing right now, I'm actually not sure if you can append. Okay, let's see. Apollo link. Actually, what I can do is I can just see what methods are available on this operation object. So I know I can set context. I know I can get context. Oh, there we go. Query. So I can grab the query out of there, and I suppose I could... Well, let's just log the query first and see what it looks like. I know basically what the shape of it's going to be, but I don't know what it's going to look like inside this function. And then we have to return forward operation. I think actually that's all we have to do is return forward operation, and we don't need to map the incoming result. So I'll just add that, and then we're going to pull this into the client file. Where is that? There it is. Okay. I'll import log link and result description link, and I can just pull it in there, add it to this array of links, and what that should do actually is just log all of the outgoing queries is all it's going to do at the moment. Cannot find the result description link. Oh, whoops, append result description link, of course, that's my bad. Okay, so we'll set that. We'll go back to where we have our app running, and we'll reload the page, and now what I expect to see here is in the console, I'll see a log of the outgoing query, and then I'll also see a log of the incoming data because we had already added that link before. And the only reason the only reason I'm logging it is because I want to see what the shape of that object is. And it is an object, so here is an object with 3 fields: kind, which is the type of the query, definitions, and location. So with definitions looks like what we want, but it doesn't look like, how would I selections, kind field, name, kind name value actions. So this is kind of tricky. I can't just include the query. I could add it as a context, but I don't think I can just modify the outgoing query. What else do we have here available to us on this operation object? Extensions. There's an extensions field here, so let's see what that is. And then also let's have a look at extensions. I don't actually know what they are. I want to pass extensions to the server though, not to the client. I have too many tabs open here. Hang on, close a lot of these because I get a little overwhelmed when there's so many tabs open. Okay, so now we're logging extensions and that are none, right? That makes sense because I haven't added any. Okay, so operation to key. What's that? Returns a unique string based on the operation. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Subtracting of all queries. We don't want to do that. I want to. It seems like such a simple thing. I just want every outgoing query to have this field appended to it. I'm just gonna Google it, I guess. See if anyone's ever tried to do this before. See, this is all from the server side. The problem is that the outgoing query is quite complex. What we write is just basically an object with fields, the fields of data that we're looking for, that we want to get returned. But by the time it actually goes out, Apollo has changed it into a very complex object with a lot of nested fields and variables and types and shapes and stuff. So it's not as simple as just appending a new field to the outgoing query, and I don't want to change the query too much, because if it changes too much, then it will become unusable, I imagine. So I figure out a way to do this. It's kind of operation query dot definitions. There must be a way to do this. I can't be the first person. This is the thing, is like, you're always thinking, I can't be the first person who's had to try and do this, you know, who's had to deal with this. I could go into the Apollo chat. I'm gonna post in the Apollo Spectrum a question, custom link to append general field to all outgoing queries. I'd like to write an Apollo link that modifies the outgoing query to include an additional field that will be used by our server for error handling. Looking at the operation dot query object in the console, it doesn't seem like this is feasible. Has anyone tried to implement anything like this? I want to prevent us from having to manually include this field in every query we write. I'd like to write an Apollo link that modifies the outgoing query to include an additional field that will be used by our server for error handling. Looking at the operation.query object in the console, it doesn't seem like this is feasible. Has anyone tried to implement anything like this? I want to prevent us from having to manually include this field in every query we write. And I'll just post that question. And we'll see. Last time I posted a question in this chat. Oh, I have to choose a channel. Hold on. Apollo link. Great, there's a channel for it. Maybe I should look in that channel first and see if there's anything about this in the Apollo link. Okay. Oh no, this channel doesn't look terribly active. There's one answer here. It's not quite what I want. Apollo server. But that's not really what we want either. That's only mutating the response. Compiled successfully. Okay, great. Why is this taking so long to load it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Query. So where did he add this to the schema? Because it must be. We would have to add it to the schema of everything. That's just crazy. That doesn't seem right. It seems like it should be a field at the root level, but I guess it can't be because I don't think this is the right way to do this. I think that my coworker is wrong about how we should be doing this. maybe the place to do it is to just write a custom helper function that wraps all of the Apollo queries and adds this field to all of them. People are going to have to, instead of importing use query from React Apollo hooks, they're going to have to remember or know to import this like special, helper function from whatever file we write, which I suppose is fine. So the issue that I've just kind of come up against is that because GraphQL works by basically having nested fields, like you write a query, everything is very much like nested inside that query, and you pass down results from like a parent query to the child query, so the child query can have information it needs to go and find the data that it needs. If one part of that operation fails, GraphQL can return an error for just that part and leave everything else fine. So you can still get back a lot of your query, but if one thing just went wrong, then you'll get back just an error for that field. And essentially what my coworker is implementing here is like rewriting all of that logic over again manually. So what I'm realizing that I'm going to have to do here is append this field that he wants to send back to every outgoing query, but not just to every outgoing query, but to every field of the outgoing query. Because if something goes wrong, we don't want to just fail the whole query, right? We want to fail just that field of the query. So what he's essentially doing is rewriting the GraphQL logic, which we don't need to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is actually just stop here and go to him and say we should use the built-in error handling methods that they give to you out of the box, and I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to go and build something with that stuff instead of using this custom logic that he's put in here. It's kind of scary to do that because I might be wrong also. There might be a way that we can do it and it'll work out great and fine and be really great, but I just don't think so. And it's weird for me to go to him, who's a much more senior engineer and has been doing this for way longer than I have, and say, look, I don't think this is going to work, because I don't usually have faith in myself that I'm right about those things, but I think I'm right about this, which is a weird feeling. So, long story short, that's it for today. I'm not going to build this thing after all. I'm going to go and talk to my co-workers some more, and we're going to rethink how we're approaching this, and I'm going to go and put together like probably just a small kind of proof of concept of the error handling the way that I think it should be done. And then I can take that to him and show him and say, I think we should do it this way, which is better than just going, oh, this doesn't work, and having no, kind of solution. So, anyway, thanks for sticking through that. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys, again, are staying safe out there, staying healthy, staying inside, and